Hold on. Wait a second, I see something. Is that a giant wave for me to queue on? Along with a bundle of fall goose to eat up? And a delicious fresh Yorick? Time to get my free kill. Hey guys, it's Global Logo Dog here to tell you how to play one of the best Yorick builds, the Triforce Grudge Hullbreaker setup, or what I like to call the Puppygirl build. Now, this build is really good because it's a very easy to pick up to play build, having a lot of damage but also quite a lot of health to stay tanky. It's a very good puppy dog build that contains a lot of Q damage, really high goose damage, and probably the biggest tower damage build in the entire game right now for Yorick. This build is very bruisery, and it perfectly synergizes with the recent buff to Yorick where Goose can now proc Conqueror. Getting these stacks earlier now not only gives us more damage, but it perfectly exemplifies the amount of healing capable in this build. Anyways, let's just go over the Yorick runes and items, and then I'll teach you guys how to be a cute puppy girl. I mean, how to build a puppy girl. How to play a puppy. Whatever, play a video, puppy dog, slog dog, fuck. Triforce Grudge Hullbreaker into whatever you need. That's it, it's simple, itemization's really easy. Oh, sorry, you want me to explain the items? Whoopsies. So the main integral part of this build is Triforce. Triforce gives a big extra power up to your next auto attack after using a skill, and it gives a bunch of really nice stats that Yorick wants. Attack damage, health, attack speed, ability haste. Perfect! It's all the nutrition a good puppy girl needs. Triforce is simply one of Yorick's strongest special item power spikes. It gives more damage than any other item, and it also gives a bit of health for that tankiness. The thing about Triforce is that it may fall off later, but in the early and mid game, nothing comes even close to competing with it for snowball potential. And since we're playing Yorick, we want to really hone in on that mid game power. Grudge after Triforce is the next key to this build, being the giant snowballing damage item. It gives a lot of AD and armor pen, which makes the damage absolutely ridiculous, not only to enemy champions, but the armor pen affects turrets too. Not only that, but your puppy dogs and your abusive wife also start slowing the enemy when they're below half HP, which is so broken because it means that they will never be able to get away from you provided you have your goose on them. Or if the champion was made in the last 4 years, you know, thanks Riot. I noticed a really common question of replacing Grudge with Cleaver, and I think that's a very solid option, but the armor pen from Grudge affecting turrets and giving the slow effect to your puppy girls is seriously invaluable. And overall, Grudge just gives more damage since this 30% armor pen is constant. Yes, Cleaver has health and the Cleaver effect can help your team do more damage, but you have to build it up, and its use is more in team fighting, but Grudge is just better if you want to do that damage on the sideline and you want that slow. So if I had to say, Cleaver has more flexibility if you want to be tanky, you want to skirmish your team, but Grudge is a lot more powerful if you want a 1v9, and this is the puppy girl build, so bark, I don't know. Next item is Hullbreaker. Hullbreaker is great. You hit things 4 times, then you Q Hullbreaker, Triforce, Demolish Rock of Grudge, and Hullbreaker serves as the final piece in this build, giving gigantic tower damage, a bit of 1v1 power, and also giving really good stats for Yorick. It also has a side effect where you can give cannon and siege minions a ridiculous amount of armor and MR, which is really useful as they take priority over your ghouls from tower shots, which lets you have 4 ghouls hitting the tower much more consistently and gives you the ability to threaten dives. If you have Baron as well and stand next to the inhib minions, you can create what I call Thanos minions, which are basically, well, as you think what it is, Thanos minions. They're just gigantic minions with already huge base armor and MR. Now they have Baron buff so they get increased tankiness, and Hullbreaker stats so they become even more tankier. They basically take no damage and they can Mike Tyson punch the towers. Wait, I can't make that joke. That one's outdated now. They're like, I don't know, chill guy, whatever. After Hellbreaker, it's incredibly flexible. You can go bruiser items like Death Stance against heavy AD, or randoms against a lot of crit champions, GA for the Revive, Titanic for more wave clear, MR items, or even Leandries if you want the AP mixed damage. The thing about this build is that the core items are there to snowball as hard as possible and to win by mid game, and there really isn't any other items that really helps with that game plan. Is what I would say if they hadn't done such a big change with the most recent Yorick change. Shojin Leandry stocks have risen up by 1000% with the recent Shojin bug fix. If you build Shojin and Leandries together, they give an increased 18% bonus damage on all of Yorick's kit combined. This includes Q, Ghouls, Maiden, E damage, literally everything. Having an extra percentage damage is always useful, especially if you're against a lot of tanky champions like Hisante, Mordekaiser. This build literally shreds through them. Shojin also gives incredible ability haste so that you can spam a lot of things in the late game, which gives you the maneuverability to chase the enemy down like a dog bone, you know? You can land more E's, peanut butter on their balls. That one's probably a bit weird and that's not going in the video. But also, you can run away more efficiently, you can place more W's in between you and the enemy. These two items are so powerful, it literally changes the fundamentals of how some matchups are played. I now think that Mordekaiser, a previously very difficult matchup, some would even consider the hardest, a very easy one now with these two items. Pretty much every tank in general is automatically a free win as long as you get these two items, because the damage this dishes out is simply undealable with. There's so much power in it as well, just in general, with the fact that you don't even need to go to Fallout anymore. If you just have these two, your Ghouls shred so much because of that AP from that E initial impact, and also the amount of burn and just ghoul damage of Grudge as well. Now I already glazed this item combination enough, but I want to talk about two really common questions that I am asked almost every single stream. So first I'll talk about the Shojin bug. Many people think that Shojin is bugged in the way that Ghouls no longer stack Shojin. That is completely intended, and the bug fix that they did was make the Ghouls do the damage again, but also they made it so that Maiden stacks that up. It's not as good as Ghouls obviously stacking it, but it is still incredibly powerful and makes stacking it 1000 times easier. The second thing that I want to clarify is Leandries and Yorick. A while ago I made a patch video discussing why Leandries has risen up in power and why it was now one of Yorick's best items. But people seem to have forgotten it, so I'll quickly go over it again. Maiden and Ghouls procs the burn damage, which is really useful because now if you get hit by a stray Ghoul, you're taking 6% of your max HP in magic damage, which is really annoying because now you're taking hell of a lot of mixed damage. The Ghouls from the AD that it does, but also just the magic damage burn from Leandries. This is really hard to itemize against, and that's something that Yorick really excels at. It exemplifies the fact that Yorick does so much mixed damage, and also Leandries stacking up is really easy. You can get this 6% bonus damage in combat whenever you just have a Ghoul scratch the enemy, because remember, the burn actually considers you in combat too. And although the AP is really underwhelming on it, just throwing E's and having that damage be amplified is really nice. All of this culminates to a very effective item that gives you bonus damage, but also a really powerful burn to your Ghouls, your Maiden, and just any of your abilities. Anyways, runes. Now runes are nice and simple. Conqueror will be the only thing you'll be going. Why? Because you're gonna bash your head into the enemy, and if you wanna use this Puppygirl, if you wanna use this Triforce build, you wanna have as much all-in power, as much 1v1 strength as possible. It's just a really nice rune because it doesn't get outscaled, and it is by a landslide the strongest level 1 rune in the game to fight back against hard matchups. Now these are the smaller runes, I've explained them a million times, so instead I'm going to discuss the alternatives to these runes that are worth going into certain matchups or just for fun. The first thing is Triumph is a presence of mind. It gives that bit of extra health for clutching out fights. If you feel like you don't need mana and you're confident in your ability to clutch, then this is an amazing rune. All the other legend runes are viable too, but attack speed does increase your DPS by quite a bit, especially to towers, in 1v1ing and CSing. Everything else is a bit niche, so it's usually good to stick to alacrity. And the final part in position tree is whatever you prefer. Last Stand's kinda classic for clutching out fights, and cutdown's always nice to have for poking the enemy down. The final rune that's interchangeable is a section of bone plating, second wind, or conditioning. I like conditioning into tanks in easy matchups, but bone plating as champions of heavy all-ins like Riven, Diana, Jax, Darius is amazing too. Obviously, second wind is really good against poke or champions of damage over time. Those are all the runes. Summoner spells, TP Ignite every game. Now why do we go TP Ignite? Because we're brain dead pups and we're gonna maul everyone on the side lane. Now I'm gonna teach you guys how to play this build. Level 1, you're gonna go Doran's Plate Pot no matter what. Our main job isn't to win the game, it's to pulverize the enemy and be a gambler. We're not gonna sit back unless we're told by our owners. What the fuck did I put in the script? Okay, level 1, our main goal is to get the EXP of the waves, and if they're gonna try stop us, then we're gonna 1v1 them no matter the champions of fight for that EXP. Why? Because we're a dumb dog. Did you forget the video title? Freaking stupid. Okay, sorry, we wanna fight early 1v1 because we wanna never fall behind in EXP. EXP is a really important stat for Yorick, specifically because the moment you hit level 6, then you can slowly regain the CS back that you lost in these early levels. So it's fine to give a bit of health early, or a bit of CS or money. As long as we get the EXP, it's fine. Another thing too is, if you ever give up the first 3 melee EXP, then you pretty much have to play completely safe until level 6. This is because you're going to be down an entire level every time you fight the enemy due to the EXP difference from 3 melee minions. Yes, it really matters that much. And if you're down a level at this early stage of a game, then it pretty much kills any snowball potential and we can't really get ahead. A really common thing that happens in general is that enemies usually disrespect Yorick's level 1 because it's dog shit. But with the power of, Doran's Way, the power of Conquer and a summoner spell like Ignite, sometimes we can evolve from a little pup to become a moderately sized puppy and actually kill the enemy. No, though, this doesn't work against like half the champions top, so do it at your own risk. Now that was just level 1. In general, levels 2 to 5 we're gonna be playing safe and trying to get graves where we can. What we're looking for is for the enemy to make any big mistakes, whether it's in the form of a big skill, missed or wasted, or just simply mispositioning depending on the matchup. Some examples include Darius missing Q, or Camille just mispositioning and stepping out for a minion, and then you can catch her out with an E. If the enemy is just relaxing and not doing anything, then screw waiting. Charge at them like a dumb puppy. With the recent Conqueror buffs, we have a lot more kill pressure and can go for big plays. If the enemy plays really safe from afar, then we can simply poke the enemy with E and safely scale to level 6. Because then, we can make the enemy's life living hell with Maiden. Before you hit level 6, when you're just about to get it, you can go for a surprise all-in with our polykill of Maiden and Ghouls. The power shift when you go from level 5 to 6 is bark, and oftentimes the power dynamic changes from you being the bottom to being the top. If the enemy Sorry, I didn't read my own script. If the enemy expects you to be stronger than them at level 6 and backs off, simply just push the wave and poke the enemy under the tower. Regardless, now that we have Prior in the lane and almost nobody in top can really deal with Yorick in 1v1, using this strength we're gonna go grab grubs. And grubs are gonna be really helpful for getting plates and pushing in general. The damage from grubs may seem small, but the thing is, it adds up quickly, and if you can get the sperm spawn thingy, you can help block tower shots for ghouls as well, which is really nice because if we have ghouls staying alive when we hit tower, it's not only more DPS, but going for big all-ins under the enemy if they're careless can be really surprising and can just net you a free kill. Another thing we want to do with Maiden is to try to poke the enemy or get them to fight us. We want to eventually kill them or whittle them down low enough to go for plates, and that's going to be the main way we get our early elite to snowball with. Be careful of the enemy jungle when you're poking the enemy though. A really common habit you'll develop with Yorick and having made it now is that you'll be pushed up a lot to the tower, which means that you become a really easy gank target. Thankfully, having Conqueror gives you a lot of 1v2 potential, but be careful because with certain junglers and top laners, it becomes pretty much guaranteed death, with Yorick having no tankiness or mobility. After plates wear off, or after you've gotten your first tower, you should have Triforce by now, and with this spike of an item, you want to keep going for T2 to get that sweet 600 gold. I want to emphasize even more, because you're going really deep for T2, you have to be careful with the enemy team even more. But as long as you're rushing the map and seeing how the enemy team moves, you should be fine. If you can't get through the enemy top laner, farming up monster caps and getting herald are all valuable things you can be doing with your time while still having priority over top lane. You can also roam over to mid lane to get tower or push, which is something I do really often when my mid just roams, or even when he's just there to get the tower as well. A really important concept that you need to get in your head when you play Yorick is, if your team is fighting the enemy, make sure you're always doing something as well, whether it's taking the enemy camps, taking towers, or making out with Shelly. By the time you've gotten your garage and maybe some components of Hullbreaker, mid-game is probably settled in. By this time, everyone should be playing around the main objective and you should be on the opposite side lane. This is where the build really thrives, because if Yorick can push with Triforce Grudge Hullbreaker, you genuinely 3-shot towers. The only hard part is getting the enemy laner to die so that you can push. So I'm going to teach you the most important concept on how to get through this kind of stuck side lane situation, or just how to kill the dumb opponent dead. I'm going to teach you guys these tactics, and in all of these examples, these strategies, I'm assuming that you won lane in your head, or you're better than the enemy and you have the wave at the tower. So the first strategy is as simple as, we're just gonna dive them. Yep, if you catch the enemy making a mistake like missing a skill, or again stepping a bit too far up, we can go in and just dive in for full HP with Maiden and Ghoul setup. This works especially well against squishier champions with no mobility, or even champions that have mobility. Just remember to poke them a little bit before you dive them, otherwise you'll end up like that One Direction member. I swear I've made this joke twice. The second strategy is just getting a teammate to help dive with you. Sometimes your team is too weak to fight the enemy or contest main objectives, and in that case it's better to ask your jungler or support to instead help you dive the enemy and go for a big push. This isn't too common of a scenario, but it's great to know about this option just because this build is so insanely fast at pushing. The last strategy, and one of the most effective manners, you don't need to be stupidly ahead, or even the ability to just magically summon your jungler. You just need to know how to walk into the fog of war and then kill them. Yep, it's really that simple. Abusing fog of war and hiding in blind spots behind small corners or just being in a bush are the best ways to catch people off guard to kill them. This requires a lot of understanding how vision works and a lot of pattern learning to figure out how people move, and also understanding of how Maiden and Ghoul AI works so that they don't overstep and, reveal themselves. But if you can master this technique, you'll get so many kills and opportunities to push. Try it next game, just stand in a little bush and wait for the enemy. Doing something as simple as this, is really overpowered because no one expects Yorick to play in such a sneaky way. And if you can kill the enemy like this, and you've got a wave while your team is also fighting the enemy, and that's the puppy dog Yorick build.